Every morning I get up with the intention of being better than I was the day before. All right, each new day that I'm presented with, I get up and I set a standard for myself and I have high expectations for myself. So if I don't meet or exceed those expectations, then I have nobody to blame but myself. There was a time before where I was perfectly content with just doing whatever it took to get by. I always chose the path of least resistance. I just did whatever came easy. All right, and it wasn't until I had one certain person that called me out and basically told me I needed to do more with my life and give more than what I was giving at the time that I realized maybe she was onto something. All right, and yeah, it hurt at that time to hear, but at that time it's exactly what I needed to hear, because I started to realize maybe I wasn't living up to my potential. Maybe I could do more. Maybe I could be more. I started thinking, and I started just reflecting and having these thoughts and really just trying to find myself. And in that moment, I received the email. So I'm going through this email, and I read the email and I open it up, and it's about this little boy. And it's about this little boy, and in the email it says that this little boy approaches his father, and he looks at his dad and he says, "Dad," he says, "do you mind if I cut school today?" He said, "I got a test today. I really don't want to take this test. Do you mind if I just cut school?" And the dad looks at his son and he says, "Son," he says, "you know, what's up? Talk to me." He says, "You know, it seems like you've been preparing for this, so why all of a sudden now do you want to back out?" And the little boy looks at him, he says, "You know, Dad," he said, "you know, I made flashcards to help me study." He said, "I stayed after, worked with the teacher, got some extra practice in." He said, "I was studying night and day." He said, "I felt like I absorbed the information. It's like, but I still just don't feel ready for the test." And the father listens, and you know, he's looking at the little boy and he says to him, he says, "You know, son," he says, "it sounds like you've more than prepared yourself for this test." He said, "But you know what, at the same time, I kind of know what you mean. You know, what you're trying to say." He said, "I get it." He said, "I do." He said, "You know, there's been many times in my own life where," he said, "you know, I've come to the point where I've put all of myself into something, and I get to the point where it comes to actually time to do it. And he said, I start having these mixed emotions." He says, "If there are two wolves inside of me," he said, "one wolf says, you know, you can do this, you're ready for this." He said, "Go out, do it, get it, be something." He said, "Oh," but he said, "this other wolf," he said, "this other wolf is constantly telling me, you know, you might not be ready for this. You need to back out. You need to, you know, to fall back. You know, you're not ready for this opportunity." He said, that wolf constantly, you know, plants a seed of doubt. He said, it's like there's a constant battle going on between these two wolves inside of me to see who can win. And the son's listening, and the son, you know, you can see he's kind of understanding, but he asks his dad, he says, "You know, well, in those times, Dad," he says, "which wolf would win?" And the father looks at his son, and like with a half smile, he looks at his son and he says, "The wolf in which I fed." The wolf in which he fed. And that's when I realized it was time for me to stop acting and thinking like a boy and start acting and thinking like a man. It was time for me to release the beast from within. And that's when I developed the mindset that you have to fight the urge to remain the same. Right? You have to take on the mindset by any means necessary. Meaning that as long as you're willing to push past the point of hard, you can have any goal or dream you set your mind to, regardless of the obstacles or hurdles that stand in your way. Alright, because success comes to those who work for it. Alright, it may not be easy, but I can promise you it'll be worth it. Alright, but it's important that you understand every goal and dream will be challenged. It will be challenged. There's going to be days where life hits you in the mouth. Like there's going to be days where you get knocked down. And it's up to you to either lay down or get back up fighting. Alright, because it's not going to be easy. And as I said, it will be worth it though if you just keep pushing along. Alright, but you have to get in that mindset of mind over matter. And in essence, what I'm saying is that it has to become that as long as you don't mind pushing past your boundaries and embodying change, then it doesn't matter what stands in your way. Right? It doesn't matter. Right? Because success comes to the person who wants it the most. So it comes down to how bad do you want it? So what makes one man monumental is not what he is blessed with, but why he does what he does. Don't be scared to go after the goals and dreams that you were called to do, because greatness awaits those who have the desire to step into it.